My name is Doug Kaufmann. For the past 40 years, I've dedicated my life and even my career to finding the root cause of disease. Join me in a team of physicians, pharmacists, and scientists, and soon you too will know the cause. Hey, thank you so much for enjoying the show as much as we enjoy bringing it to you. I never get the opportunity at the end of the show to tell you what this means to me. Thank you, God TV, for enabling this show to be on the air. Many of you are going to get helped, folks, understanding that we have within ourselves the ability to crawl out of some of our symptoms and diseases. It's just that Western medicine really has us pretty much understanding that we need medication to do that. Do we globally? I don't know. That's what this show is all about, experimenting with your exercise program, with your diet, right? With supplementation, and see if you can pull yourself away from headaches or miserableness. So thank you for enjoying the show. Thank you doubly for telling your friends about Know the Cause. A lot of people watching now, and I pray that I'll be a positive influence on your wellness, okay? Today, a couple of things we want to talk about. The yeast, Candida albicans. This is a dangerous one. It's a pathogen that can cause a lot of death and misery, or misery and death in hospital situations, etc. Then skin conditions. What role does fungus play in skin conditions? And finally, something called volatile organic compounds, or VOCs. What are those, and what does fungus have to do with those? Okay, we're going to discuss all of that, starting with a tiny cell called yeast, right? Understand that this show is all about fungus and its negative impact on your health, right? And there are many fungi. They say there's 1.5 million. Scientists have now characterized or classified 300 as being pathogens, disease-causing. We found 75,000 of them, and of those 75,000, 300 are known pathogens. One of them is a fungus, or a single-celled fungus, called Candida. And there's Candida tropicalis and Candida, there's many Candidas. One of them is Albicans. Candida albicans is a zinger. If you've had a catheter in a hospital, if you're breathing mold in, it's suppressing your immune system. Candida grows in mucous membrane tissues. You've seen thrush in babies. Vaginal yeast is another. Ringworm is a yeast on the skin. These are all superficial mycoses, or Candida albicans derived diseases. First, take a look at this. This is a yeast, a Candida albicans yeast. Isn't that interesting? See the purple in the middle? That's the nucleus. In that nucleus is very much DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. This is scary because the human cells look a bit like this too. As a matter of fact, yeast cells and human cells are almost identical, and that should scare every one of us. If indeed these are pathogenic, if these cause disease, and our cells are just like it, then we're vulnerable to the DNA from fungal cells converging with our human DNA, a hybrid forming, and disease to ensue. The danger of this formation is that with the human component, it'll bypass our immune system. Our white blood cells will stand there like soldiers saying, you're not going to get through. Well, wait a minute, I have a passport. I have human DNA. Oh, okay, go through. In goes the yeast along with it, okay? So let's talk about this Candida albicans. Normally, Candida albicans is a commensal. God put it there. It's a commensal microbe that resides in the human oral cavity, gut, and vagina. However, the fungus can cause mucosal and systemic infections in immunocompromised individuals, those whose immune systems are down. Although it is still being studied, it appears as though the oral antibiotics may precipitate the crossover from harmless yeast to harmful disease-causing yeast. Wow. So God put in us good bacteria and good yeast. Along came antibiotics, and you can just watch the disease pattern in America since, look, they were godsends. Antibiotics can save your life, but there's a dark side of them. And you can watch from the 1940s, the disease process in America has gone like this, and in countries where antibiotics are handed out like candy, like they are here in America. This was interesting in a medical journal, Microbial Pathogenesis. or germs causing illness, 2018, just a few months ago, saying, although it is still being studied, it appears as though oral antibiotics may precipitate the crossover from harmless yeast to harmful disease-causing yeast. Because the question inevitably is going to come up, wait a minute, why am I always sick? What's this skin reaction? We'll learn about that in the next segment. What is Candida albicans? It's a tiny fungus, a single-cell fungus, that can make us very sick. Dr. Crook wrote a book called The Yeast Connection. And there are many, many good books written, folks. Here was one that Dr. Orion Truss wrote. And the heading of this book is called The Missing Diagnosis. They may say you're neurotic, but do you experience depression, anxiety, irrational irritability, bloating, diarrhea, congestion, heartburn, indigestion, loss of self-confidence, lethargy, symptoms of contact with chemical odors, migraines, in children, hyperactivity? This book was a bestseller. It came out in the 1970s or 1980s by Dr. Orion Truss. It's all about what we knew back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s was Candida albicans. Today we know there's 299 more fungi that are pathogenic. So this is a bad one, but there are some that can take you down very quickly, okay? Okay, Candida albicans is a single-cell fungus which grows commonly on or in the skin, digestive tract, and urinary sexual organs of humans. Excessive Candida growth may cause many health problems, including painful infections such as mouth thrush, vaginal candidiasis, digestive problems, skin rashes, neurological or neuropsychiatric problems such as depression in humans. This is, it's a little bit scary when you begin to study this, that our doctors aren't learning about it in medical training. So here we have digestive problems, skin problems, neuropsychiatric problems, and we don't know yeast. Oh, we know antidepressant drugs, we know what, the harm, the post-traumatic stress, those in a war, those with very tough parents. We know the harm those can cause, but we never stop to think of an organism causing depression. Just a sidebar here, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, Paxil, drugs like that, have antifungal properties. Isn't that interesting? And they help a lot of people with depression. Okay, as a pathogen in the gut, it produces ethanol or alcohol. According to ScienceDirect.com, ethanol is a neurotoxin, is one of the oldest psychoactive substances used worldwide, and is the most widely consumed drug in Western societies, okay? Alcohol. Often, folks, precipitating fungal growth is either antibiotics or alcohol. I think people who are alcoholic have a yeast growing in their belly that they need more sugar, more sugar, more sugar. And carbohydrates provide that. Alcohol provides that. And until you fix the gut, you're not going to fix the alcoholism. A drug called nystatin, N-Y-S-T-A-T-I-N, can help fix the gut. Dr. Crook talked about that. And as a salute to Dr. Crook, decades ago he published a book in which he believed Candida albicans can cause some case of depression. Now comes a study from America and Germany that suggests the same yeast plays a role in schizophrenia. Okay? Based on their findings, the authors suggested that dietary management of Candida should be considered in schizophrenic patients, and more research was needed to understand the possible relationship between this little germ, Candida, it colonizing in our body and infecting our body, and causing psychiatric conditions such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and depression. This was a quality medical journal that published this. Folks, it's amazing how little is known about yeast, but how damaging that yeast can be when it's active and injuring us. Now, what about skin reactions? Are they fungus? I'll be right back with more.
Well, about 4 years ago, I was on my treadmill because I walk on my treadmill every day because I'm a type 2 diabetic. I was flipping the channels trying to find something to watch to keep me entertained, and I ran across a show called Know the Cause, and I just started listening to it. It was like somebody turned a light bulb on for me. It all made so much sense. And I'd tried the Atkins diet. I'd tried doing exactly what the so-called experts said, and it didn't work. I couldn't get my blood sugar below 180, doing exactly what they said. And so when I started doing this phase 1 diet, it all came together. Within just a few months, I noticed that the pain in my elbow went away. My blood sugar started to leveling out. I noticed that, and I just felt so much better. Type 2 diabetics are overweight. I've never been overweight in my life. I've always tried to exercise, and I thought I was eating right. I was doing what they told me, you know, the whole grains and the low fats, and it just wasn't working. And but no, I've never been overweight. And I asked the doctor, I said, well, because he told me, he said, what's a skinny little guy like you doing with all these old fat men problems? And I said, well, I don't know. That's why I came to you. Well, he just dealt a bad hand. That's the only explanation he had. My cuticles used to split open every winter, just really bad, painful. I'd have Band-Aids on every finger. And that doesn't happen to me anymore. And I credit it all to know the cause and Doug Kaufmann and the Phase 1 diet. And I recommend everybody to get on it. It's just so much better. And I just can't thank Doug Kaufmann enough. I feel like he saved my life.
It was in 1986 that I first started. We lived in Los Angeles. The kids were small then. And a doctor challenged a book I had written. It was called The Food Sensitivity Diet. Because in that book, I said, I think skin problems are underneath problems just coming out on the skin. Toxins coming out on the skin, and that contributes to a lot of things. He took exception to that. He was schooled at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, Maryland, a top-notch Ivy League college. And he contacted me and said, I don't agree with you. And I said, well, come here to Los Angeles. He's from Dallas. Come here to Los Angeles and see what I'm doing. Folks, within a couple of weeks of him coming to Los Angeles, he totally changed. He saw psoriasis get better with antifungal medicines. He made my wife and I an offer, a 5-year contract to come to Dallas, work in his very big clinic, and help some of the patients that he was losing. If a doctor doesn't get a patient better, they'll just find another doctor. He didn't want to release all of these patients, lots of them. He was on the board of the American Psoriasis Foundation. He was one of 11 doctors, I think. He was an important doctor. And he's losing all these patients. All he can do is give them a cortisone shot, have them stand naked in a PUVA box where UV light hits their body, then they turn around, UV light hits their body, and go home. And it never addressed the cause. You could relieve symptoms with drugs or sunlight, but you couldn't fix the problem. So on I went. 1986, I'd come in every month. 1987, we relocated to Dallas on a 5-year contract. Kept our home in LA, rented it out, and off we came with the babies, the kids, and my wife and I for 5 years. Rented a little house, and away we went. What a few years, okay? Let's open this way. Dr. Luke Curtis, a dear friend of mine, says this: fungus and skin rashes. A number of studies and case reports have linked indoor exposure to mold or water damage to significantly greater risk of skin rashes and angioedema, which is swelling, like eye swelling, throat swelling, etc., under the deep layers of the skin. Molds produce a large number of toxins that can cause toxic or allergic skin reactions. As I began working with these people, it was humbling. It was humbling. There were tears. These people had been coming to many doctors for years with, I didn't know what some of them were, just strange looking skin problems. But after a few weeks on the Kaufmann diet, and the doctors would give them antifungal medicines, it was like a revival. The people came in the room, some of them were sobbing, some came with their spouses, with their kids. This is the best my mom has looked or felt forever. Folks, there is a fungal component to many skin problems, but your dermatologist doesn't know much about fungus. So many of these are treated as bacterial problems. Acne is classic. We put people on one of the cycling drugs, minocycline, tetracycline, for years and years and years, without regard to what that's doing to the belly or the disease process in general. We've got to be more careful. So this is what Dr. Curtis said. Now, here's an article from Palma Carlos. This was several years ago. Flooding and indoor water damage promote heavy growth of fungi, bacteria, and their toxins. Lieberman reported that 13 of 48 people, 27% of mold-exposed patients, reported frequent skin rashes. Then we have another case of 89 patients allergic to trichophyton. This is a dermatophytus skin. It's a skin mold. Trichophyton mold reported that 57 of those 89 patients, or 64%, had significant skin rashes, urticaria, which is hives, and angioedema. What I'm doing is citing, here's what I know in the US. We started out with a show going directly to the public. Before you knew it, nurses, lots of nurses watch our show in America. That's going to happen. Every country this is in. You have many laboratory people, physical therapists, nurses, doctors who will come to this show, and I hope, I pray, learn from it. So what I like to do, and I know this is a little technical for we lay people, but I like to start citing science. One study says 27% of people exposed to all this mold have skin problems, chronic. Another study says, wait a minute, 64% exposed to mold in their home have skin rashes. And folks, I can tell you, these people are going to one doctor for breathing problems, another doctor for skin problems, another doctor for tummy problems because they got bloating, belching. They don't know that this yeast is affecting all those organs. But in fact, science is finding, in the 50 years I've been in it, that's exactly what's happening. A couple more studies. A large representative national or nationwide study of 4,917 U.S. adults reported that the presence of musty or moldy odors indoors was associated with almost double the risk of skin rashes just a few years ago. So when you walk into someone's home and you smell that musty, mildewy, you never smell it in your own home. And it has no effect. Mold grows in the most spotless, cleanest homes in America. It's not a dirty home, it's a spotlessly clean home that has an HVAC, heating and air conditioning vent system that's just spewing out mold all the time. Get a Petri dish, get it at a hardware store, set it in your home, follow instructions, see if mold is growing in your home. And finally, this one. Another study reported that prevalence of skin rash was more than 3 times greater in 88 adult employees of a water-damaged school as compared to 107 employees that weren't exposed to that mold damage. That was in 2012, American Journal of Industrial Medicine. The point being, skin problems, what Dr. Weekly and the other doctors in that clinic taught me, is skin problems are a huge problem. And since doctors don't learn about mold in their medical training, very few of them are able to help the patients. This is not a cortisone deficiency, and yet the patients get shots of cortisone. What's that doing to the liver? Be careful with all these shots of cortisone. And as far as a PUVA box, a UV lamp, stand outside. Put a swimming suit on, stand outside in the sun. Now, don't stand out for long periods of time or you'll burn your skin, but maybe 10 minutes once or twice a day would be good. And let me sum it up this way. If your rashes or skin problems started after being exposed to fungus, that would be alcohol, excessive antibiotics, excessive alcohol, or in a moldy building, ask your doctor for a 30-day supply of antifungal drugs and get his or her approval to follow my Kaufmann 1 diet while on the antifungal drugs. Improvement, we have discovered, may be witnessed within a week. Most of these patients told us with granuloma annulari, I'd never heard of it, but I've seen it on a couple of patients, just weird looking skin problems that didn't fit any given diagnostic criteria. They just had strange symptoms. They'd bleed sometimes, they couldn't open their arm or they'd bleed. It was horrible. Those are the ones that respond best and quickest to an antifungal regimen. Ask your doctor for antifungal medicines for 2 weeks. Follow the Kaufmann diet during those 2 weeks. Folks, it doesn't cure anything. If it's a fungus, it'll likely clear it up very nicely. Then you go back to your regular diet, off antifungal medicines, and it all starts again. You see, what this does is plant the seed. Wow, I'm in control of my own health. I'm going to continue on that Kaufmann diet to see if this doesn't, over the next 6 months, totally clear up. In many, many people, it really does. Now, do you know what volatile organic compounds are? I kind of do, and I'll bring you this information regarding fungus in just a moment.
I had taken a real strong antibiotic, and I went to the doctor, and it ran my PSA up to about 8. And I got to thinking, you know, there's something, this is crazy. So I went on the phase 1 diet, and over a period of about 8 or 9 months, I had lost about 40 to 45 pounds. and my PSA was back to 1.2. So, yeah, that's interesting.
Well, just encouraged him, and he was a very willing student, and he did the exercise, and he was real faithful about it, very faithful about his diet.
I don't think it's that hard. I'm close to the phase 1 diet all the time. I mean, I've cut out bread, wheat, sugar, so I try to keep it to meats, veggies, vegetables, and water.
It's really simple because it's just some type of meat and then veggies. A real easy cleanup because we don't eat a whole lot, and we like it because it's good for us.
You know, I don't remember when I was first exposed to the words volatile organic compounds, or VOCs. Those of us in the health field know about VOCs. They are scents, smells. And so mildew, of course, is a VOC. What I didn't know is cancer cells emit VOCs. Mold, cancer, they both emit VOCs. You see where I'm going. And then I'll never forget, when we moved to Texas, 30 some odd years ago, we had a smell in our kitchen, and I got under the kitchen. I'm just not good with a tool in my hand. I got under the kitchen, tried to fix it and find out where it was. Little did I know we could hire a service that would bring a dog that sniffed VOCs, mold, behind our walls. Sure enough, this dog came in, and under one of the cabinets there was mold, so the guys took the cabinets out and got it fixed. So that was my jumping off point 32, 33 years ago about volatile organic compounds. Let's study together because it's hugely relevant, what I'm talking about, as it has to do with your sickness. Volatile organic compounds, okay? There's no strict, this just boggled my mind. There are no strict definitions for volatile organic compounds, although there are over 10,000 of them. Many building products and cleaning products use chemicals that qualify as volatile organic compounds. These are smells produced by chemicals that qualify as VOCs. Some products have slight scents, like antibacterial hand sanitizers, while others produce heavy scents, like mothballs. As I'm reviewing all this many years ago, you gotta be kidding me. Building materials in my home, cleaning products in my home. Folks, more and more scientists are going away from all of these scents in our home. We plug in these things and they're supposed to keep your home smelling fresh. What's it doing to your health? I mean, I don't know. But volatile organic compounds are things you might want to avoid as much as possible. People hanging these scent things in their cars to make their cars smell good. Wow, I'd rather roll the windows down and smell a bit of outside. And then you look at countries like China, where the smog or the air is so thick you can hardly breathe. Maybe it makes sense to put some VOCs in your car or your home, okay? Drinking alcohol. Alcohol produces volatile organic compounds, of course. Smell of beer. Drinking alcohol or ethanol is also produced by many fungi, such as the yeast used to make beer or wine. Alcohol has a distinctive odor and can also be considered a volatile liquid mycotoxin. Brewer's yeast is the mold. The mycotoxin it makes is ethanol, also called alcohol. Okay, it's just like penicillium is the mold, and the mycotoxin it makes is called penicillin. And now there are beta-lactam antibiotics, there are hundreds of them, that are made from penicillium, okay? So alcohol produces volatile organic compounds, okay? Next graphic. Molds produce volatile organic compounds. Here's what happened to us. Dogs trained to detect mold produce VOC odors have been successfully used to detect hard-to-find sources of mold growth, such as mold growing inside air vents or crawl spaces. This is exactly what happened to us when we first moved here. We brought a dog in. I thought this is great, $75, and the dog just runs in the kitchen. And then in the dining room, we had some behind a wall in the dining room. But I thought, how fascinating. What's that dog smelling? It's smelling volatile organic compounds. Now, folks, here's where I want to go with this. These dogs are able to detect with 90% accuracy when mold is growing behind a wall in your bathroom, your kitchen, your house. I would learn some years later that these same dogs have an 85% accuracy at going up and sniffing 20 people and determining which ones had cancer. You think about that. These dogs are trained to smell mold. And they're diagnosing cancer, they say, better than some laboratory tests. Okay, look at the next graphic. Cancer cells produce VOCs. Remember we saw alcohol? And now we're seeing cancer cells, molds and cancer cells. Dogs have also been trained to successfully detect several cancers by smelling the VOCs produced by the cancers. Isn't this just mind-boggling? You train a dog to sniff mold in a house, but that same dog can come up and smell cancer in you or me. What are they smelling? Both times it's volatile organic compounds. Mold makes volatile organic compounds. Cancer cells make volatile organic compounds. The dog is sniffing mold, and we're calling it cancer. Okay, finally, mold-related volatile organic compounds have been linked to many indoor health-related problems like asthma, fatigue, poor concentration, memory problems, headaches, skin and eye irritation, and sick building syndrome, and now cancer. Isn't that fascinating? It would take me, since that dog came into our kitchen, the kids were little, I had to keep the dogs, or the dog away from the children, and the children away from the dog, more importantly. I never got it. I mean, I've always thought cancer and mold has been linked. Until I read, how are these dogs able to detect cancer? Oh, they're smelling VOCs. Wait a minute. Are those same VOCs made by mold? Yeah. And they're made by cancer? Yeah. So the dog is smelling mold on these patients? Well, I guess you could say that. Actually, they're smelling cancer. No, they aren't. They're smelling VOCs that mold makes. It's going to be difficult to teach me that cancer is not a mold problem. Okay? Thank you guys for being here with me today. It's just like family getting together every day at this same time, Monday through Friday. I do live an hour Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. You can get more information on my website, knowthecause.com. Thank you, God TV, for carrying this show. I pray that it will be beneficial to each and every one of you as you learn about supplements, about mold, how that may impact your health negatively. God bless you. I'll see you again next time. Take care.